So, if you're in the VMware world, you basically live inside the vSphere client, right? You're managing all your VMs, your hosts, your clusters. But what about the health of vCenter itself? Today, we're going to talk about a really critical, but honestly, often forgotten tool, the VAMI. Just think about your day to day. You are absolutely laser focused on how your VMs are performing, the stability of your clusters, and that's all super important. But it's so easy to forget about the actual engine that's running the whole show, the vCenter server appliance itself. And really, that's the big question, isn't it? You've got detailed alerts, you've got maintenance plans for every single one of your VMs. But what about the health of the system you log into every day to do all that work? Who is managing the manager? Well, the good news is there's a tool that's purpose-built for exactly this job. So let's go ahead and introduce the vCenter Server Appliance Management Interface, or as everyone calls it, the VAMI. Okay, so what is it? The VAMI is a dedicated web portal. And the key phrase to lock onto here is administering the underlying operating system. This is not where you go to spin up a new VM or configure a vSwitch. No, this is where you go to manage the health and the core configuration of the Linux appliance that runs vCenter. And getting there is about as simple as it gets. You just point your browser to the IP address or the fully qualified domain name of your vCenter server. But, and listen, this is the really critical part. You add on port 5480. That specific port number is your key to unlocking this whole other management interface. All right, so you've logged in. What can you actually do in here? Let's take a peek inside the VAMI toolkit and see the key functions it gives you for keeping your vCenter appliance in tip-top shape. And the second you're in, you realize, whoa, this is the real command center for the appliance. We're not talking about VM settings here. This is where you set the appliance's core networking, where you monitor its own resource usage, its CPU, its memory, its disk, and, maybe most importantly, this is where you apply the official updates and patches to vCenter itself. You can even manage low-level stuff like SSH access from right here. And this really brings us to the heart of it all, the thing that trips up so many people, VAMI versus the vSphere client. It all comes down to understanding that you have two different tools for two very, very different jobs. So on one hand, you've got port 5480. Think of this as your gateway to the VAMI, the interface that is all about the appliance's deep down health and configuration. And on the other hand, you have port 443. Now, this is the one you know inside and out. This is the vSphere client, your portal to the entire virtual environment that runs on top of the appliance. This table just lays it all out perfectly. You need to apply a critical security patch to vCenter? That's a job for the VAMI, port 5480. Need to change the appliance's DNS servers? VAMI again. But if you're managing virtual machines, adding hosts, or setting up a cluster, well, that's all done exactly where you'd expect, in the vSphere client on port 443. See, it's a really clean split. One manages the foundation, the other manages the building. So the most crucial point to take away here is that these aren't competing interfaces. They're not fighting each other. They are complementary parts of one single powerful system, and knowing their distinct roles is really what makes you an effective admin. You know, here's a great way to think about it. The VMMI is like your foundation engineer. It's responsible for the concrete, the plumbing, the electrical of the building itself. That's the OS, the patches, the core health. The vSphere client, then, is the building manager. They're the ones working with the tenants, your VMs, and organizing the floors and the wings, which are your hosts and clusters. And, the building manager can't do their job well if the foundation engineer isn't keeping the building itself in good shape. And this really just boils it all down perfectly. The VMI is your go-to for keeping the vCenter server healthy. The vSphere client is for managing your VMs. Clear, simple, and totally separate jobs. All right. So we've defined the tool, we've clarified its role, so what's next? Let's turn all this knowledge into something you can actually do the second you're done with this explainer. So I'll just leave you with this one last thought. Now that you know exactly what the VAMI is for, I want you to think about your own environment. You know the health of your VMs, but when was the last time you actually logged into port 5480 just to check the health of the manager itself? Be honest. Is your appliance's health check overdue?